he needs to be held accountable.
Okay. So still more buck passing. Well, anyway, now that Broadview Village President Katrina Thompson has declared in the editorial that she's not going to abide anywhere out his protesting that you and the governor stirred up to make her predominantly black village collateral damage over the ICE facility, when will you admonish Broadview protesters from rocking a near Tulsa program there? And we've heard over and over that's not me, that's Trump, and the platitudes about what a great leader she is, but nothing about the behavior of these riotous protesters that she's even called out.
I've always said that I believe in the First Amendment and people's right to be able to peacefully assemble. And if people work outside of the structure of the First Amendment, they should be held accountable. You know, peacefully assembling to be able to make your point clear to the government is a fundamental right to our democracy. In fact, this room doesn't exist if we don't have that fundamental right in place. And when people act outside of those parameters, they should be held accountable.
Good afternoon, Mayor. I found a sweater in my closet for you.
Well done.
One of in this compromise proposal that you introduced today, it scraps the video gambling terminal legalization. Instead, calls for a casino at Midway Airport. What would that look like, and why is that a better option for Chicagoans at this point?
Well, look, one of the things that we know as our airports continue to become increasingly busier, which is a testament to our growing, vibrant economy, that here is an opportunity to create more spaces for individuals who engage in gambling to be able to do that, particularly as our airports again become increasingly more busier. As far as the structure there, I mean, those are elements that we would obviously still have to work out and work through. And one of the things that I thought was useful in this particular iteration of what was proposed is that it doesn't disrupt what's happening at other spaces, particularly as Bally's looks to come online. So that's would be an ongoing conversation, and it's a relevant opportunity for us to generate revenue in a space that is becoming increasingly busier.
Is there a concern about having slot machines at every corner bar?
I mean, I do believe that we should have some level of decorum, right? Particularly to ensure that, to the point that you're raising, that we don't overly saturate these spaces. But that's something that can continue to be worked out in the rules making process, and of course as we establish some parameters of what is best as it relates to this particular form of gambling.
Mayor Johnson, I've interacted with hundreds of thousands of real Chicagoans, real working people, who say that it's your budget that they're worried about. It's your property taxes that they are afraid will force them out of their homes. They resent their hard-earned tax dollars going to pay for safaris, for example, for CTU members. They resent that. Balloon rides, multi-million-dollar vacations around the world. There are obviously business leaders.
Question time.
Right,
question
right,
time.
yeah. Well, the
Go ahead.
business leaders, they want me to ask this question.
Go
They
ahead
say
and ask
that
it.
it's hard enough to retain qualified workers when they see headlines every single day of people, women being punched in the face, working downtown. A woman pushed out of a wheelchair and raped on a CTA platform.
William, we need the question.
You even said it was an isolated incident when
All right.
Bethany McGee was set on fire, 26-year-old Bethany McGee. Very, very cold, heartless response to that tragedy. She's fighting for her life. And, of course, real Chicagoans still resent the fact that you don't pay your own water bill, your own bills, water bill. Here you are saying that you don't want debt collectors, but your own plan, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask my question. I'm more than happy to ask the question. Your plan would hire more attorneys to go after debt, the debt. So the question is, how would your attorneys determine whose debt to go after? By race, by zip code? And this just looks like probably another discrimination lawsuit that will be filed against the city if your plan is actually goes through.
Well, look, we've always said that, that people who have the ability to pay their debt should do it. And what our plan
Do
does.
you not have the ability to pay your water bill?
And so as your question is related to the budget that I proposed, is that the way we will determine how the city captures that debt is based upon people who have the ability to pay. Quite frankly, there are a number of individuals who don't live in the city of Chicago that have accumulated debt over the years. As you may know, the city as a whole, going back almost 30 years, is roughly $8 billion of debt that has not been collected. So we put forth a strategy to make sure that we have people in place within the various departments to be able to, contact those individuals that have the ability to pay these debts and ensure that they set up a well-situated opportunity to do just that. Thank you for that question.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
My question is, so WGN did analysis that all, well, if not most, of the orders of this alternate block were paid by Michael Sachs. I wanted to know what you make of that in relation to the vote on this alternate budget.
Well, look, I have not, seen, that report. I'm certainly aware of the contributions that this individual has made to multiple people, and, look, there's no secret that I believe that the wealthiest individuals in this country have a heavy hand in how our politics are carried out and how those dollars influence decisions that decision makers make in government. It's no secret, right? And again, this is not a new phenomenon. I've quoted Justice Brandeis multiple times. You could have a democracy or wealth in the hands of a concentrated few, but you cannot have both. And what we have seen over and over and over again is that the wealthiest have attempted to not just rule, but to dominate. And that's not sustainable for our democracy. And I think, at a particular junction in our nation's history where the wealth gap continues to grow, where a corporate CEO makes 200 times the amount of the average employee, that's just not a sustainable economy at a time in which affordability is front and center for most Americans. That's why I'm working hard to invest in people in this city to build the safest, most affordable big city in America with cuts to SNAP, cuts to education, cuts to transportation, cuts to housing, cuts to good paying jobs. It's why this budget was clear when I presented it, to ultimately protect working people and, the heavy hand that the ultra rich have in our society right now. I do believe that it is a threat to our democracy.
Hi, Mayor.
Hi.
2 votes now suggest that you've lost the argument for asking corporations to put more skin in the game through a head tax. When is it time to accept 98.4% of your budget as a win and just move on?
Well, look, 80% of the people of Chicago agree that the, corporations who receive the largest tax break in the history of America should put more skin in the game. That fight is not over. Right? You know how many times people fought for civil rights, women's rights, the rights to vote? Wouldn't that have been a shame if we would have had that same question for people a generation ago? That you've lost it, why not just give up? For the people of this city, I will never give up the fight for working people. That fight will never be over. Not until there's equity and justice for every single Chicagoan in this city.
Okay, if I could just
going
follow
very
up
well.
with that just
Oh.
for a second, Mayor, if you don't mind. So that suggests that you've got a veto pen ready to go for this, or is there some? Do you have some play before tomorrow's vote when the budget side of stuff comes up?
So I'm not playing games.
No,
with
I
people.
didn't mean playing
Oh,
games, but
okay.
but do you have a card to play, if you will, that would prevent the vote that theoretically could happen as soon as tomorrow on this full budget?
Again, this is not about, playing a card game or any of the sort. I mean, what I've said repeatedly is that there is an opportunity to continue to build on this work to build compromise, right? I've never said that the corporate head tax is the end all be all, right? To the point that I believe that you've already expressed that there are, significant revenue drivers in this budget for corporations to put more skin in the game. That's because we fought for it. It's not because someone just decided to willingly to submit to those ideas. So the personal property lease tax, the smart tax for social media, and these are gains that had we not put forth this fight, it would not exist. So what I'm offering, as I've continued to offer, the ideas that have been submitted to me, we have found a pathway to be able to do it all. The 98.4%, you're right, that is a win. That's a win for the people of Chicago. But I'm not sitting here patting myself on the back, particularly because there's still $90 million out there that there are a number of city council members that for whatever reason, that they're comfortable with a speculative approach that, quite frankly, undermines the authority that has been granted to us by the Constitution to pass a balanced budget. So that's what this is about. This is not about, my commitment with the people of Chicago to this particular form of revenue. It's about making sure that our budget is balanced and that we have a better way to do it without going after the most vulnerable people in our society.
Take two. How you doing?
Well, it takes two, according to one particular reporter.
That's right. I get it. I appreciate the Motown fan in me appreciates that, Mayor Johnson. A tangentially budget-related question: the group representing online sports wagering websites has sent a letter to your team raising concerns about the plan to impose new regulations and new fees, and suggesting that they will stop taking wagers from bettors in Chicago on January 1 if they don't either A, get some clarity about regulations, or B, get an agreement to pause their enforcement for 6 months. If you had an opportunity to take a look at that, they say they've been talking to your office. Where are those conversations now?
Thank you for that question. We have been in conversations with this entity or industry. Jung, you want to add more to that?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we've been in conversation with the industry groups. It seems like they were initially confused about the licensing framework that already exists today for sports wagering, and so they would be able to and are invited to apply for the existing license framework.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We already know how do you feel about the budget, but if tomorrow the City Council approve this budget, what are you going to do? Are you going to sign it or are you going to veto? I know that you have